Hi, my name is Connor Tulluck, and I'm a solutions engineer here at Nearmap. Today I'm going to be moving through an explanation of who Nearmap is, how we produce our content, and how we make it accessible to our wide variety of clients. So we've been capturing content for 14 years now. We have a proprietary camera system called the Hyper Camera 2, working on our third generation at the moment. And what we do is we mount this camera to fixed-wing aircrafts and fly them between 8,000 and 12,000 feet to capture our aerial imagery as well as our derivative 3D and AI content. So what makes us a little bit different, right? We're able to provide extremely up-to-date and current imagery, and the reason for this is because we're always flying our aircrafts in our coverage area up to 3 times a year. We're able to produce very high resolution at 2.2 inches of ground sampling distance, and then we upload that right into the cloud where we can make that accessible to all of our clients for viewing and for download. We're also able to provide a historical capture program based off of the fact that all of our vintages get uploaded and saved so our customers can look back in time and see how their site has progressed. We also capture 80% of the US population at the moment, and we're always expanding to capture more and more area. So something that's really important to explain is that where does Nearmap live in this ecosystem, right? So we are aerial imagery providers, but we do it through fixed-wing aircraft. So it's right in between the two different collection types of satellite and drone. So with satellite, you get extremely large coverage areas, but you get very limited resolution. With aerial, with these fixed-wing aircrafts, you can get very high resolution between 5 and 30 centimeters with slightly lower capture, but still very high areas of capture compared to a satellite system. And then that third piece would be the drone capture. This is an on-demand capture process, right, with very limited processing time and very limited coverage. So by only supplying the aerial fixed-wing data set that we do here at Nearmap, we're able to live in between both of these extremes and provide the most value to the most customers. Our content stack that we're currently offering is our vertical imagery, our oblique imagery, which we capture off at about a 45-degree angle from the aircraft and the ground. And that helps us to derive what we call our panorama, which is a stitched together version of the oblique. And then we also have derivative products such as our Nearmap 3D content and our AI content, which I'll be talking about a little bit later on in the map browser demo. Our 3D does have a little bit of nuance, a couple of different data types that are important to understand. Again, get into this a little bit later on the map browser demo, but we're able to offer a textured mesh, a point cloud, digital surface model, digital elevation model, which is a bare earth scenario, and then a true ortho product. And where does this really connect to the construction management industry, right? Some of the areas that we're very strong in are we are able to reduce the amount of site visits that are required. We're able to assist in logistics planning by providing a very high resolution 3D product that can help with some quantity takeoffs as well as volumetric analysis. Our AI data can be used for a lot of this logistical planning as well to get a data set that is indicative of what is actually on the ground. We're also able to facilitate collaboration by making our product very usable in third-party applications like Bluebeam, GIS platforms, and CAD platforms. And we're also able to assist with validation of site plans due to our high accuracy and high resolution, as well as facilitate safer work environments by quickly identifying some of the potential hazards on site and do some of the preliminary staging, development, and analysis. Again, our content is available through our map browser web program or directly through our APIs. I'm just going to close this up with a quote from one of our clients here. Instead of having someone drive 2 hours both ways to look at a building, we pull up Nearmap and are able to make an assessment in a fraction of the time. So again, the value of what we have here is that all of our content is on demand, ready, and available for download at a moment's notice. And it really can help to speed up a lot of this construction process and mitigate risk and reduce cost. I'm going to go ahead and get into a map browser demo, explain where we host all of our content, a little bit more in-depth discussion about what kind of content we have available, and then how you can get it into third-party applications. All right, so now what I want to do is go over Nearmap's map browser application. So this is our content hosting platform where all of our new captures get uploaded for viewing as well as export. What we're looking at here is a site in Queens, New York. It's a highway interchange development that's been going on for about 2.5 years now. It's a very dynamic work zone, a lot of temporary stage construction, and I think it does a really great job of showing some of the historical capture that the map browser is able to allow for viewing. So what we're looking at right now is the vertical imagery. This is our base product. If we zoom in here, you can see you're going to get all of the content streaming in at the highest possible resolution based off of the zoom values. So again, what we're able to offer here is 2.2 inch ground sampling distance to very highly accurate and high resolution imagery type. What you can then do is cycle through different pieces of content, different types of data, as well as dates, the different capture dates that are available for viewing, as well as these measurement tools and export options. So really quickly, just to talk about some of the tools that are available for measurement, we have a line tool, which is good for checking overall distances. Let's say you're trying to establish a temporary staging area, check what is the actual clearance on an entry point. The line tool is very good for that, and just checking to make sure that a delivery vehicle or a work vehicle can access that work zone. We also have this polygon tool. It's really great for getting the general area, maybe of, again, a potential staging site, knowing how much space that you have available, checking things like how much of certain resources available in an area as well. We also have a rectangle and circle tool. And then with some of our 3D data, you can do things like height and width, which I will get into right now. So cycling through our different types of content, let's go over to our second product, which is our oblique imagery. So this is captured from about a 45-degree angle from the aircraft to the ground. And what you're actually seeing here is a scaled image. So everything that you're viewing is scaled proportional to what it is in the real world. And so that allows us to generate these things, generate height measurements, width measurements, things like that, due to the accuracy of the image that you're actually viewing here. We also have the ability to generate areas just like we were looking at the site before. Let's pick a different area. So we wanted to check here. It's going to ask for another view angle, and the reason for that is because you really need two different directions of view to establish that polygon accurately. So let's do that and then go back to our first photo. And as you can see with all these tools, we have different options in terms of coloration, opacity, brightness of the tool, as well as the ability to set different units of measurement. Also, all of these measurements can be saved in what we call project files. So if you mark up a certain location and you want to share that with a client or a partner, it's very easy to do so. So let's switch over to some of our other content types now. Let's go to our panorama. So our panorama is all of our oblique imagery stitched together. So you're not just looking at that source photo, you're actually getting all of the source photos stitched together in a way that you can zoom and pan and scroll around to look at your site a little bit more in depth. You also have the ability to switch between all of your cardinal directions. So if I hit this compass here, you see that you're now viewing the west angle of the site. Again, can be very helpful for getting that full image of what's going on the ground. So I'm just going to switch back to our north again for our vertical imagery. Another really great tool that we have here is, while switching through to different vintages, you can utilize this slider tool. So if I pick two different dates that are a bit off from each other, March of 2019 and September, all right, let's go June of 2020, you can see some of the changes on site. So if we look at this bridge that's being installed here, we have this time slider, and you can see that the project location has totally changed in that time, right? You have this a totally different staging condition. Some of the permanent bridge has already been installed. Again, really highlights the value of this updated aerials and getting that ground intelligence knowledge very, very often. Switching through to our kind of final base product type would be our 3D, right? So what we do is, after all of these new captures, we take our oblique imagery and we compare all of the different capture areas that have common points, and then we generate this 3D object here. So this is a reality mesh. You have the ability to pan and scroll and zoom around and look at your whole area. And you also have a lot of the same measurement options. So let's say we wanted to take a look and just confirm that this grading that was done on site is a 2-to-1 grade, right? What we can do is use this line measurement, select the top of the slope, and then select our bottom of the slope. And you're actually going to get some of these measurements here. So you're going to get your relative pitch. Let's go to a rise over run. And you'll get the actual ratio there, as well as the relative height and line length. So again, you have some of the same measurement functionality that you have in the vertical and oblique imagery types as well. Our kind of final product type that we offer is our AI, right? This is our newest data set, and what we do is, with every new capture, we process it using our proprietary algorithms, and these will help identify different ground features automatically. So we have a number of different AI layers. We're always adding new ones. We have a couple of construction-oriented ones. Construction vehicles are now identified. It's kind of interesting to see, how your assets are being distributed throughout a site during certain stages of construction. But in terms of some of the older layers that we have to offer, these are some of our vegetation, our surface layer packs, our utility data. So if I go ahead and turn on our light poles and power poles, you'll see that all of the light poles and power poles that are identified in the survey are now being colorized and shown up in this raster image here. We also have things like building footprints. So if I turn those on, you'll see all of the buildings delineated. And then also vegetation. Medium vegetation is things like, medium-sized trees that you'd kind of expect. And then some of the surface layer packs are things like asphalt, concrete, different ground texture types, things like that. We also have a variety of kind of less standard ones. We have cars, driveways, pedestrian crossings, power lines, things like this. And as I said, we're always adding more and more. So when you're viewing these within Map Browser, you're seeing a raster image, so it's just a colorized indication of what the algorithm has found. But now with our AI API, what we're able to do is release this content in vectors. So all of the colors that you're seeing in Map Browser here are defined with real geometry as objects, as points, lines, and polygons. And what that does is allows us to offer additional insights in an automated way to do things like generate quantities and get a better indication of kind of what is my square footage of asphalt on site, or square footage of vegetation I need to expect. How many utility poles am I going to be worrying about? Generating a list of utility pole locations to check for conflicts with delivery vehicles. A lot of these insights are now something that we're able to help with, which is very exciting. So one more piece that I wanted to cover while I was in Map Browser is, how do we actually get our content out of the application, right? Map Browser is great. It has a lot of functionality, a lot of really good tools, but a lot of times, sometimes we might want to export into CAD, into Bluebeam, maybe markup in there. So let's discuss how to do that. So using this export button here, you have the ability to export high resolution imagery, geo-referenced image, our 3D content, or our AI data. And one of the export types with a richer option base here is our 3D. You can see you have the ability to select the capture date, the projection system, the type of textured mesh file, if that's what you were looking for, DSM, DTM, true ortho, point cloud. All of these have different applications and are usable in different formats. Just as a quick example, let's discuss how we would use an exported image in Bluebeam, for example, right? If we're more comfortable documenting our quantity takeoffs or our staging that way, how would we do that? So we'd use this export option. We'd simply download file. We could do a high resolution image or a georeferenced image in this case, since we're just going to be marking it up. So let's hit download. And you'll see that appear in your downloads. And then what you'd be able to do is switch over to our Bluebeam, right? So what I have is I have a number of different stages of that construction area loaded up in Bluebeam here, and you can see you're still able to get these very high resolution images of your construction site, right? And again, even more usable than Map Browser, since this content is no longer streaming, it's just downloaded locally. You're gonna be able to maintain that highest level of resolution. Using some of the Bluebeam tools I have, this is stage 6. You can do things like counting different quantities on site. Maybe you want to do a little analysis on how much of a certain asset we have at the moment. But you also can do a little bit more of a planning type workflow, right? So if we're trying to check to see that a material delivery can fit into an access point, we can do some of that dimensioning on these high resolution images, do some more counting here, check again another access point, and then actually do some area measurements to make sure that a potential delivered material is going to fit in that area. Check crane conflicts, that we actually have room to fit this asset on site and conduct the construction activity that we're looking for. Another really good example on this project specifically was the staging became very complex, since there's so many different installations that have to occur in such a tight area. So being able to be flexible and have an updated aerial to say, hey, this temporary stage isn't going to work. We can't actually install this footing in the way that we thought we were going to be able to do. We need to come up with an alternative way to stage this area out, right? Being able to mark up a high-res image, send that to the engineers so that they can go ahead and finalize that design and send it back, can really cut down on the amount of time that the crews are down, can reduce that cost, and really mitigate the risk that's associated with that change in construction activity. Let's also kind of talk about construction staging and the importance of those updated aerials, right? So if we turn on, let's turn on some of these references here. So we have a proposed framing plan, some proposed drain. Actually, we'll turn the drainage off. Substructure proposed, right? All right, so this is giving us an indication of where the structures are actually going to be going in, right? So the aerials don't indicate anything here. You can see there's going to be a new structure here, new bridge here. All of these new structures are going to be going in. Totally fine, right? But here's the problem, right? So as construction progresses, the site conditions are going to change. And let's move up in time here. I have different stages of construction. Let's see if we can find the one that is indicative of some of this substructure going in. So you can see work has begun on this bridge footing here. You have some piles that have been driven, lines up with the proposed line work very well. Let's check on this other one. So yeah, most of this structure has gone in. All of these footings have gone in. Everything lines up really well. Again, if you have questions about what's going on in the field and you have to reference that line work alone with just the provided imagery, right, it's pretty useless. So you can't really derive any value from that other than looking at the line work, and you can't connect those two data sets of, hey, what is the existing condition, what have we already constructed. You just have that line work of, hey, this is what's supposed to be there, but it's not generally all that helpful. Again, this is a really good example here. The field conditions have totally changed. If you have questions about accessibility, access points, where can we fit vehicles, things like that, what do our points of entry look like, none of that can be answered just from that line work alone. You really need these updated aerials to give a better picture of site conditions, how things are evolving, hey, can we get materials into this area, things like that. All of those questions tend to come up. On this project specifically, there was a lot of questions on adjusting the temporary conditions of the site to facilitate construction, right? So there's a lot of very tight areas here, getting field crews in here, getting equipment in here to actually construct this while also allowing traffic to keep flowing. That came up all the time. And to give kind of another example of this with the proposed line work, let's turn on one of the temporary phases, right? So the green and white is the final pavement condition. So all of that stuff has not been installed yet. You can see that they're going to put the final roadway in here. It's going to be constructed over here as well. The red is supposed to be indicative of the temporary staging conditions, and you can see that the alignment that came with the proposal here in red it's showing 2 lanes of through traffic, but you can see that from the time between the proposal and actually constructing this stage, there had to be a discussion about, hey, we need more room to allow something to be constructed, right? So it's probably that maybe this footing here or something where the radius of this curve was decreased and the traffic was shifted over. And this happens a lot, right? So this is another good example. This C ramp here was totally different in the final staging design. So was this area right here. To allow for some of these footings to be installed, they had to adjust that pretty significantly. And then same with this temporary ramp as well. In the field, they found a large 24-inch pipe, and that pipe could not be moved, and the permanent ramp couldn't be constructed where they wanted it to, right? So it was originally going to be constructed right here. The final decision had to shift over here, and again, these things only come up in the field, right? So facilitating that communication between the engineer and the contractor to say, hey, we had an issue. Let's quickly mark up an updated aerial. Let's identify where the conflict is. Let's get some new temporary alignments set up so that we can actually build this, or even in this case, get a new permanent alignment set up. So that concludes our demonstration of Nearmap content and how it can assist in the construction management space. If you have any questions, please reach out directly or stop by booth 208 and we can provide you with a free sample set of our data. Thanks.